Hello. So I had to take a break from writing. It was a long day at work today. I had to get a lot of stuff done and audits. Oh, but I love Excel stuff, so that's cool. But I realized that I talked a lot about like being an intel specialist in the Navy and because I was that for 8 years. Um, and I realized that I didn't like maybe I have a video. I don't remember having a video, but maybe I have a video discussing like security stuff and like how to set powers passwords and things. So like I'm really careful about stuff because I was trained extensively in the Navy. So for example, um, any username that I use or any handle, I don't have emails of. Like that's by design. Like I chose something that is like so for example, Karasai 04. Now 4 is my favorite number, but I don't actually use the number 4 in a lot of stuff. Because I've talked about it being my favorite number. So I'm not going to use it because I don't want people to associate it with any of my stuff. So that's a good security tip. Um, but that's a character, my own character in like my work in progress for like a book series that I'm doing, and I've never used it as a password, and I use it as a handle, but I don't use that in any of my emails or anything. And I don't actually use my name in any of my emails either. I did have an email that had part of my name, but that was like 10 years ago, and I don't use it anymore. But yeah, anything from like Gmail to Outlook to mail. I've got a whole bunch, but none of them are my handle. None of them are like my personal name or anything like that. Um, so that's like a good security tip is you can pick something that has nothing to do with your personal information. It makes it less likely for someone to actually find your email. Um, the other thing too is not posting things like openly. So like my Facebook and my Instagram are private and they always have been. Well, not always, but like they have been since before the divorce with my ex-husband, my abusive ex-husband that I cannot have find us because because he promised to do that to me and my kids. Um, so, I've had to make that private, but you can choose how something is presented. So I never show any kind of email or phone number or anything. Now a lot of people already knew like my date of birth or whatever. That's fine, but I still don't post that on there. But I mean, honestly, do you know how many Jennifers have been born in 1986? There are a lot. Okay, like there are millions of Jennifers in the US. There's millions of Jennifer like Anderson. Like that's millions. Okay. Like it's a pretty common name. Um, but anyway, so I don't post like personal stuff along with emails or on any kind of social media or anything like that. Not even LinkedIn. And the only reason I have LinkedIn is because I do LinkedIn Learning for my work. Like it's connected. So I did that years ago. Um, and so like I just keep it for that purpose. But I've had a stable environment and job for a while, so it's cool. But I figured that I would talk about like security things. So if you do have like a public account for something, be careful which kind of information that you're putting there. And honestly, it's good to have multiple emails. It's good to have multiple like routes just in case like you have a password recovery, or just in general, like maybe assign one email specifically to all your public account stuff, and then do not show any other emails. That's important. Um, but I also wanted to talk about passwords because a lot of things that I talk about a lot of my nerd interests and stuff, but none of the stuff that I have has ever been like a password. Like things that I did have as passwords. So I pick phrases and they're always long phrases. I even have some emails that are very long and there is some sort of randomized phrase, and it's like I switch around words and stuff. So like I do that for passwords, and then one of my emails is really long and it's like a phrase that I did this whole like coded thing with. And so it's not something that anyone can easily guess. So that's important, is to get something that someone would not easily guess. And there are some things that I will never talk about openly because because I don't want anyone to guess what like a password is, you know? So like I don't so like yes, I love Deadpool. I love Deadpool, but I'm not going to put Deadpool as part of one of my like passwords. So Deadpool is not part of any of my passwords, whether for work or otherwise. Um Neither is like Tenchimuyo or Bleach. Like I like stuff that I'm showing, I don't have passwords for. I don't have phrases or anything like that. I don't have movie quotes or anything. So it's stuff that I am interested in or found interesting, or it could be related to one of the hundreds of songs that I've listened to recently in the past month, you know? Or it could be like from an obscure like 80s TV show or something, you know? So it's stuff that I don't have anything that's obscure 80s TV show. I'm just giving that as an example. But still, it's like I choose randomized things and then I like insert stuff. Um because because you want to make sure that you are as secure as possible and you don't want someone to easily guess your stuff. And I get that not everyone can remember things. I know at home, like I have a little book that has like all my emails listed, but then for password, I have like little codes. That's how I do it. So I have a little code that reminds me of what the password is. And it may not, the password may not be anywhere near what the code word is. So like my favorite color is blue. So one of my emails, I put the code word blue, but then, and this is for example, because this isn't my password. But like maybe for Hotmail, blue would equal like little boy blue, you know, like just, it's like blue is the code word for little boy blue. I've never had that password, but I'm just using an example. Okay. So, and I'm not even telling you what my actual email is. But anyway, and when it comes to passwords, it's good to alternate. So instead of like an O, you're using a zero. So I did this as an example. Now, see my handle, I do not have an email like this at all, like in any way, with or without the 04. So this is not my email in any way. So this is an example. And then I love Doctor Who. I do not have a password that's currently like this. There may have been one, I think, 15 years ago that was like I heart the doctor, and I spelled out heart. One of the hearts had an actual EART, like HEART. The other one had H34RT. So like I would, you alternate. So for example, and I put the capital I because I will include capitalized. I will include like lowercase. I will include a number. So I put 0 instead of O, and I put 3 instead of E. So yeah, so it's like I love Doctor Who, and then I have an exclamation point at the end. Um, I mean, a lot of passwords, like you have to have that kind of criteria anyway. But I always make it more than like if it says 8 to whatever characters, I always make it the most that possible. This is just an example. Again, this is not my actual, like, I don't have a password like this. This is not my actual email. I've never had an email like this ever. Um, like my close friends know my actual emails. Um, so, so like but it's only like a certain circle of people. Um, and so like if they wanted to get a hold of me, then they would like email me or text me or message me because my actual friends, like they can do that. So it's only people that I don't know. It's only people that I do not talk to, or they're just like internet people. But if it's like people that I'm friends with, they know my stuff. So again, that's just an example. Um, but yeah, those are some tips, making sure that if you have like a handle or something on social media, don't ever make it part of an email. Don't ever make it part of a password. Try to alternate between. So instead of O, you have a 0. Like exclamation points. Switch things up. And I actually misremember passwords a lot. So I will like have to reset a password constantly. So honestly, I am like my own best security against people like guessing what a password might be. because I forget. So then I reset it and then I remember, oh, okay. And so I'll cross out the code word for whatever that email is and put a new code word. And I won't write down the actual password, but I will put a code word there. So that's just my way of being secure. Um, and I had to log into a lot of different kind of stuff when I was in the Navy. Um, and you get read in and out of stuff all the time when you have a clearance. So, like, but you can't like have anything written down. So you have to memorize stuff. So that was how I memorized things, is just like I would randomly have a thing that just had random words and no one else knew what those words were. I didn't even have like any emails set down or even the system I was using. I would just have a thing of words. Those are my code words. And that was personal to me. So that is something that you can do. You can just write down a code word that will remind you of, oh, this is the code word for this email or this account. So that reminds me of what password is there or what email I used for that. But don't, like me at home, yes, I have like my emails written down because I have a lot. I have so many. I have a lot of emails. Um, and honestly, most of them were created like 15 something years ago, 20 years ago. Like, it's a lot. So some of them I have to get rid of. There's a few that I already have. Um, but so I will like make sure I write down like the code word next to that. So that's me cleaning house. So I have quite a few right now. But the best thing that you can do is to have like a little sheet where you have code words, not even putting like what account it's assigned to or anything like that. Like that's something that you can memorize. And that's a way that you can keep things secure. Some accounts, depending on what it might tell you like, okay, what's your code word for this? Now for my bank, for example, I have like a code word for my bank. I have a code word for um, secure stuff for like mortgage and other payment like accounts. And those are completely different from anything with my email too. So I have a ton of different like code words and I have a ton of different like, memorization techniques. But I wanted to talk about those tips because I realized that there are a lot of people that are getting scammed, or people are trying to like send spoofed emails and stuff. Like, it's just, you got to be careful. So don't ever, just, this is my unsolicited advice, but don't ever put like any sort of media handle, like social media handle, as part of an email. I never have and never will. So Karasai has never been an email and never will be. And even though 4 is my favorite number, it's not included in a lot of my stuff. It might be part of maybe a random like password, like instead of A, I have a 4, something like that. But in general, I do not have the number 4 as attached to a bunch of my stuff. That's on purpose. It's for security reasons. Um, so again, this is an example that's not an actual email of mine. Um, so I just wanted to write that down as an example and be like, don't do that to yourself, because it might be easier for people to like try to find you, especially if you have private accounts. Maybe they try to like scam you with stuff. But again, like any of my friends, like people I'm actually in contact with, they know like my actual emails. So and messaging, so they'll be in contact with me. And then close friends have like my phone number and stuff. So that's something that they can message and text. But yeah, so I just wanted to kind of put that out there in case, just try to be safe. There are a lot of people, especially with what's going on in the US right now. It's definitely good to be careful. Um, and and also like just this is my tactic. You don't have to follow this tactic, but there are people who will talk about things that they really love, and then they'll have a password or like an email or a handle that's associated with that. That could be a little dangerous, because if you have something like, for example, like the Deadpool, the Tenchimuyo, the Bleach, Winnie the Pooh, I'm like pointing upward, but Winnie the Pooh, like Beauty and the Beast, like that's, none of those are part of like any passwords and stuff. Like, so I am huge nerd. I'm into so many things, so many things. And there are things that I will never talk about in my videos because I might associate a password with it. But so like there might be an obscure TV show or a board game or something that I like, and that's maybe part of my password for like a year or so, and then I change it to something else. But if you're talking about stuff that you really like, be careful not to include that in like a handle, an email, or a password, because that makes it easier for you to get like spoofed emails or scams and stuff like that too. So I don't include that kind of stuff. So I mean that's um, it's I flood these videos with tons of stuff that I am interested in, tons of stuff. There are some things again that I won't talk about, but I flood with tons of information. So you don't know which one I'm actually using for any kind of passwords if I'm using it. So that's by design. That's I'm trying to keep myself safe. So even if someone were to guess like, okay, she really loves Star Wars, she really loves, this or that. Yes, but I also really love a ton of Disney stuff. I love a lot of Nickelodeon stuff. I grew up watching MTV. There could be like a phrase from some show on MTV that I like, but you don't know that I like. So it's like I flood with more information, so you don't know which one I'm using at any time. And you don't, and also, even if I were to use part of a phrase of something, I stitch it together with something else that's not related in any way. So that's just me doing like my coded thing. So I'm really big on security. I'm really big about what kind of information of mine is put out there. So personal people or people that I'm friends with, they know some of my stuff, but they don't know like my passwords or anything. They might know an email or two. They know my handle, of course, but they don't know that other stuff either. So I never send any of this kind of information to any of my friends. I don't send anything electronically. If I were to say something in a phone message, I don't give all the information out just in case, for whatever reason, someone might be listening in. So, like, even if someone weren't able to crack any of my codes, what if they try to get to me through one of my friends or family? Well, they can't because I don't give any of that information out. And if I do, it's only partial. So, it's like I am very careful on purpose by design. I was like that when it came to the Navy. I was like that even before my divorce, even before my abusive ex-husband, like, you know, attacked me the last time. And then, like I was able to get away. And it's like, I was always careful. And I had to be careful, especially after him, because during the time I was married to him, he did have access to my stuff. Um, and that's the problem, is that when I was married to him, he was very controlling, manipulative. And so he made sure that anything I may have written down, he also wrote down. So even if I changed it or I destroyed it, so it wasn't written down, he had copied it already. And it sucks when you're on 12 plus or 16 or so hour watches and stuff. And then you got this person who has access to all your personal information at home. And it's sucks because I let him in the beginning of our marriage because I thought I could trust him. So then he had access to things. So that's the other thing too, is that you got to be very careful. I know it's tempting to share things even with a loved one, even with someone that you think like there's no way they can betray me. There's no way, excuse me, even if it's a person that has not and never will abuse you, okay? You don't know if they might get scammed by something. You don't know if someone might get access to their stuff. And if they have access to your stuff by proxy, you're going to possibly get scammed, or someone is going to, there's going to be identity theft or something. So you have to be careful. So that's why I started doing the coded thing. That's why I started, like, unfortunately, when it came to my ex-husband, the kind of situation I was in, it was really hard to keep things away from him. But I definitely learned my lesson from that, because I really did. He didn't show his true colors right away. Like that's how abusers are. So he did not show his true colors or what he was capable of. He had fabricated an entire lie to his family, his friends, everyone, not just me. So it was like his true self was completely hidden. So no one, not even his family and friends, knew his true nature until he decided to show it. So he worked hard for years to make sure that everyone thought he was this great guy. Everyone thought that he was loving and that he was a green flag guy. And, so he was so supportive and stuff. But when he finally showed his true colors, and it was years later. Okay. So I'm not saying that you should immediately be paranoid of everyone around you. I'm just saying that there are some people who have gone through what I've gone through, so they're more careful. But there are other people who, even if you are never abused, and I hope so, I hope you're never abused, I hope you never go through that kind of stuff. But again, by proxy, if someone you know or are very close to, if they get scammed, if they have identity theft, if they have something happen with their accounts and they have access to your stuff or they know your stuff and it's written down or on a computer somewhere or something like that or on your phone, there's a chance that it can also get to you. So that's the thing too, is that I always have physical paper that I write down codes on. I don't have it electronically anywhere. It's literally there at my desk. But even if a person were to break into my house and for whatever reason they focused solely on like the thing that has this list of code words next to emails, the code words are just to remind me of what my password is. It's not related to my password in any way. Like the blue and the little boy blue thing, that was just an example. But if I actually had the word blue, the password wouldn't have the word blue in it. It wouldn't be related to the color blue in any way. So, so it's just so you know, like it's good to not have any of this kind of stuff electronically. Now, if you want to go a step further, you would have to put in your password every single time you log into stuff, and a lot of people don't want that. It is easier to just have the account save that information. But I encourage people that if you are going to do that, to periodically check all your accounts, make sure, because a lot of people will link accounts, like especially Google. You'll have like a Google account and it links everything. So if you are going to do something like that, make sure you have backups of everything, especially emails that are not related. Make sure that you don't have any identifying information saved as far as like close to your password or anything like that electronically. So it's what pen and paper stuff really helps. Um, but just periodically going through and seeing like, okay, what's my activity with this? Has this been accessed recently, and was it by me? So that's something that you should check periodically just to be on the safe side. I do check periodically because sometimes I will forget a password and I'll be like, okay, I'm going to go reset it. Or sometimes I'm like, you know what? I haven't checked in with this account in a while. I'm going to go do that. So I like, yes, it might be a little bit paranoia, but I don't really consider it that. I just consider it me being cautious. Because I've had identity theft. I've had people try to get into my accounts. My ex-husband, after I divorced him and after I was finally able to get through all my accounts and change all the passwords and all the identifying information and code words that were anywhere near related to any passwords I had before when I was married to him. So there are times when it said, "Oh, activity. Did you try to log in?" And be like, "Nope, that wasn't me. Like I'm paying attention to this account." So it's good to check periodically. It's good to do that. So, yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to do a few tips. I'm sorry this is so long. I just wanted to do a few tips for security because I mean, there's a lot going on right now, especially in the U.S. And I'm not going to get into all that, but it is helpful if you take a few steps further to secure your information, to secure emails, accounts, passwords, things like that. It does help in the long run if you get into these habits. So I've had these habits for years. I didn't really have these habits before the Navy, but literally on the first day of Intel A school, because you have A and C schools. So you have the regular Intel school, and then you have the C school, which is your specialty rating or specialty, you know, like your Navy enlisted code. So mine was targeting. So like I went through target and strike applications. Like that was my C school. But you also have like op intel, you have ground, this is all stuff you can find online, by the way. This is not me giving anything away. This is stuff you can go to like the Navy.mil and it can list those kinds of like NECs. but during A school, you get the basics down for Intel. And literally on the first day, they talk about security. They talk about reputable sources, which, by the way, Fox is not, and it never has been. I know everywhere you go on base, they have that stupid channel on, which is, it's not, yeah, Fox has never been reputable. CNN's not really reputable either. It's really slid down. There's even bits and pieces of BBC that over the years I'm like, oh goodness, you guys, you have fallen. So it's, yeah. So literally the first day they talk about security, about reputable sources, where you're getting your intel. They talk about these basic points. And this isn't like me giving away secrets or anything. This is just me telling about, like, they go over the basics of security, of getting into good habits, of making sure you lock your computer every single time, of making sure that you can pay attention to what accounts you're accessing, and being spatial, having spatial awareness, not just physically, like kinetically. It's non-kinetically, cyberly, having spatial awareness of the accounts, what they're used for, periodically checking them. So like they go over the basics of this kind of stuff day one for Intel A school. Like that, this is just the basics. And yes, like some of the specific topics that may have changed since I went through A school, but they go over the basics. They go over the basics of creating accounts, of like what's required, and okay, this is the kind of stuff that you got to pay attention to. These are the kind of habits you should have. So this is the kind of stuff that I got into the habit of while in the Navy, and so I just wanted to share that kind of, I don't know if I call it wisdom. Just like having some knowledge of, and there are a lot of people who are not very savvy. I'm not really a tech savvy person in general. I have some cyber friends still that I talk to. So sometimes if I'm like, what's going on with this? I will like message them and be like, dude, what does this mean again? And they'll be like, oh yeah, that's just blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, can you do it like simplistic terms? Because I'm not as savvy with the terms as they are for cyber stuff. Um, but yeah, if I have questions about stuff, I have like cyber friends that are veterans or are active duty, and it's just basic like civilian stuff. It's just basic account stuff. So I'm not asking them about anything secret squirrely. I'm asking them about everyday things. Now, technically, I'm still pretty good when it comes to Excel, Word, like PowerPoint, stuff like that, because that's like literally the products you use all the time when you're in Intel. So I know quite a bit about those, but other kind of stuff, other tech things, or how, I am pretty savvy when it comes to protecting against spoof emails and spear phishing, things like that. And even outside of the annual kind of training that I have when it comes to my work, um, I still look up training on LinkedIn consistently because I'm trying to make sure that I'm up to date on everything. I'm trying to make sure that I'm up to date. But sometimes the terms get me. So I will text my cyber friends, be like, what does this mean again? So like I'm not exactly the most tech savvy person, especially when it comes to terminology. But the basic know-how of how things kind of process or work, or like sometimes like someone there are so many sites now where you can like send things anonymously to people, um but like you have to purposely put like a bad email in, because like there are some emails that can still get like spoof stuff, or like spear phishing and stuff. So like people will send like codes or whatever, and they'll send it to a certain email, and the formats are like pretty in depth. Like you can choose like where things go. So like it's, if you really want to send something to someone, you can. Like there are like now some emails, I think Gmail, Google, like there's like there you have to use like certain source codes now, I think, to get past that, because they have pretty big security when it comes to that now. I'm pretty sure. At least that's what my cyber friend said. So you'd have to go through like a lot of technical stuff to be able to send to those. Otherwise, it's automatically going to get kicked back, because like they have that kind of security and stuff. Now, again, I'm not the most tech savvy, so that was the most recent question I had for my cyber friend, because like uh, I do have like a Gmail account, but nothing was like, it wasn't like a spoof email. It was the regular kind of spear phishing kind. Um, and it was just like it had a link to something. So, I mean, of course, I like reported it and all that, but I asked because I was like, can this really get through? Because you have stuff that goes into junk mail. Um, so that's when I asked my friend. I was like, can they still do that to like Gmail stuff? And she's like, you have to go through like a lot of source code. Because otherwise, like there are some protections when it comes to like Google and stuff they put into place recently. So you can still get like spear phishing stuff. You can still get like things for Gmail, um, but you have to like put some effort into it. It can be kind of tedious, is what my friend said. But again, like this was some link. It was obvious as a spear phishing thing. So it was like this long link, a bunch of text and stuff, and it was about like, oh, click here to check your package is on the way. Those kinds of like emails, like your package is on the way. Don't ever, ever click on those kinds of links. Don't ever. Most cases, if you order something online, you can sign up for like UPS, FedEx, or whatever to alert you with an actual tracking number. And it depends on like what site you use too, but in general, you can sign up for that kind of thing. So it gives you an actual tracking number. But if it's like a very big thing, like of like this long text codes thing, it's like no, don't ever. So I did get some like spear phishing stuff to my actual Gmail accounts, um, like well, account. I say accounts like plural, but it's actually singular. But either way, but it was like this long text thing. And I was like, of course I'm not going to click on that. So I don't ever get like spear phishing stuff that has like actual like just a message or anything. It's always like a link or something. Um, but like I think other ones like Hotmail slash like Outlook, whatever. Because yeah, Hotmail from like 15 years ago, like that's the last time. So it is Hotmail. It still goes through, but a lot of people will do like Outlook now. Is what it's pretty much called, but yeah, so like that, and I think like at mail.com, I think like those are the ones where some of those spoofed emails can go through, but like Gmail, I think you'd have to like try extra. So yeah, but anyway, sorry, like I started going off the rails again. But yeah, it's there's some basics. I do encourage people, whether it's LinkedIn or whether it's some other thing, like just to kind of get more savvy when it comes to like any kind of security stuff, spear phishing, that kind of thing. Just kind of familiarize yourself with it. To recognize the kind of emails coming in, and they can get pretty crafty where they'll make you think that it's coming from a person um, but if you actually know that person, then text them, message them, like ask them, like, hey, did you send me an email? Did you whatever? Because there was a couple times where something was sent to me supposedly by my dad, but my dad never sends emails. He always texts me directly. Um, so I mean, it's I was just like, hey, dad, did you send me an email for whatever reason? And he'd be like, nope. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't open it, but I asked him before I even opened the email. So there are times when you shouldn't even open an email because it might, yeah, it's a trap. But yeah, so definitely double check. I know that there's a lot of stressful things going on. There's a lot of stuff happening. And so this is the kind of thing that you may not think about. But considering the route that our country is going, at least in the US, um, can't speak for other countries, but I'm just saying, like, at least for the US, definitely pay attention to this stuff. It is important. I mean, it's not like dire, maybe, compared to some other stuff that's more life threatening, but I'm just saying that this is something to kind of pay attention to, just a little bit. Like, just it helps in the long run to have some sort of safety, to be aware of this kind of stuff. So yeah. Anyway, I'm tired. I'm running some program stuff, but I need to go to bed. Yeah. So anyway, I wanted to do some tips and security stuff, and I hope this helps someone, especially if you're even less savvy than I am when it comes to this stuff. But these are good habits to have, to kind of be aware of. So if you need to practice by writing stuff down first, then definitely go ahead. but getting into that habit of memorizing things, of having like a list of code words and stuff like that. Now, you may have a different system than me. This is just my system of memorizing things. So you may have a different system than me, and that's totally fine. I'm just using mine as an example. So if you want to build on that and you have your own way of doing things, perfect, great. Just make sure that you're being aware of stuff, that you periodically check on things, and make sure that you aren't including stuff like your handle in any social media. Do not include that in any kind of email or password. I don't and never have. So I just that is something to remember. That does help with security. It helps add that extra layer in a way. So anyway, I will try to get back to writing tomorrow. I just, whew, I cranked out a lot, and I was just like, my brain hurts because I just wrote a whole bunch of stuff, and I need to still edit it and add things in, and just, oh, it's a lot. It's a lot when you've got like a lot of writing projects. And so I was like, I'm going to take a break from this book. I'm going to work on this. I just wrote a whole bunch, and I was like, oh, I need to take a break for this. This is a lot. This was like, I don't even know how many words, but it was like 6, 7 pages on Word. It was just like me just typing furiously, like size 11 font. So it was not too big. So, so it's just me like furiously. So I needed a break from that. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a break from that. I'm going to do this because it is kind of important. Yeah. So anyway, I hope you're doing well. And I will talk to you on Talk to you. So bye.